What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inside the Burrow. I'm your host, JJ Metz, and I'm joined by Robbie Rostella and Richard Pereira on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon in Boca Raton. Richard, how's it going today? How are you doing?
Yeah, going great, JJ. Very great. I had a very fun weekend seeing the basketball team end their home schedule with a bang, beating Memphis, getting our payback from the last defeat back in late February, and then seeing baseball pull off the 6-4 victory against Miami. That was also very fun to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. And sorry, Will, but we really destroyed you there. Robbie, I'll go to you. How are you doing today?
Doing good. I was there with Rich. That was awesome. And now we pivot. I leave tomorrow morning for Fort Worth. We'll scout out Tulane versus UNT at night, and then Friday night is it's game time. FAU will take on the winner of that game Friday night. I think it's 7. It's either 7 or 5. Uh,
7.
7.
7. So yeah, should be a good one.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm also super excited for that, and that's super cool that you're getting to go and getting to cover FAU in person. That should be sick. So let's go to our first topic. Um, FAU men's basketball recap of this week. FAU had 2 games at North Texas and home versus Memphis in a week where they swept them both. Richard, out of those 2 games, which one were you more pleased with? Like as how FAU played.
Well, of course, everybody would look at ending the season with the win over Memphis, but I would really look at the game against North Texas because when you look at FU's record 24-7, 14-4 conference play, you see how well they dominated at home. Like they only had one loss on the schedule, on their home schedule. You really look at most of their home losses; they were on the road and in official road games, not
All of
including the
the
neutral, not including the neutral side games. Most of their losses came on the road in official road games.
all
And
of the AAC losses were on the road.
yes, of course, yeah, went undefeated at home in conference play, but a couple of all the losses were on the road. And to see them end the road schedule at Denton to take down the Mean Green in the way that they did, it was very important because when this team heads to Fort Worth, Texas for the conference tournament, of course it's obviously neutral site games. Like nobody has home advantage unless you're a Texas team, UTSA, North Texas, and everybody else who are Texas
I
related,
mean,
except Rice, who said goodbye to their tournament hopes after losing to Wichita State. But when it comes down to it, getting a win on the road against North Texas, very big. And of course, ending the season with a bang with the win over Memphis. Shout out to Brandon Webbspoon, Brian Greenlee, Jalen Gaffney for getting celebrated throughout senior day. It was obviously very fun to watch them just play their last home game at the Burrow. Oh, it's such strong fashion, especially Greenlee with 21 points for a season high. You just got to love moments like that for the team.
most definitely. And speaking of that Memphis game, FAU, it wasn't just John L. Davis and Elijah Martin who contributed. Other guys contributed, like Brian Greenlee, like Elijah Martin, like Brandon Weatherspoon, like Jalen Gaffney. Vlad had 21. Greenlee had 21. Martin at 16. Like the depth of this team is so deep. How much will FAU's depth carry them through March, Robbie, in your opinion?
Absolutely. It's the key point of this team. It's how they got back on focus after losing 2 out of 3 there to USF and Memphis before this most recent stretch. And then slowly against that game versus Tulane and then UNT and then the culmination against first Memphis, the team basketball has really just come and everyone's contributing. It's Greenlee, it's Gaffney, it's Golden. Eventually Rosado, that knee brace is going off, and one of these games he's gonna make an impact. So even Trey Carroll, once he comes back, March last year, it was anybody at any given moment, and that's how it's going to be again.
Most definitely. I definitely agree. I mean, the depth of this team is something that other teams that in March don't have. And that pretty much carried us through the tournament last year. Like anyone on this team can step up. And that's gonna be huge come the tournament because when if we get someone in foul trouble or if someone is tired or we have an injury, we have the other guys to step up, like Jalen Gaffney, like Brian Greenlee, like Brendan Weatherspoon, like Brennan Laurier. So this team is deep, like Trey Carroll if he's back, and this team is super deep. Now I want to switch the topic over to baseball. FAU baseball had a phenomenal week. I mean, 2-1, you get the series win versus FIU, and then you beat Miami, which is spectacular. That's a Power 5 team who has really good wins and some really good games. Richard, just tell us about this baseball team and can you recap the week for us?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, FU defended home field against FIU, winning both home games against the Panthers, 4-1 in the series opener, and then obliterating them, absolutely obliterating them, 24-2, with two grand slams. A matter of fact, from Jalen DeBose and John Schroeder. It was a very big win over the Panthers to especially bouncing back from that 7-4 loss on the road against at their home field. So it was great to see them respond the way they did offensively with how they struggled getting hits getting the bats rolling against the Panthers in the second game, and then just bouncing back with such a strong performance on the offensive side. And with the win over Miami, I saw was a balanced effort from both ends. Emilio Gonzalez, 3 RBI, 2 hits. Dylan LaPointe, who has come on with the occasional homer, he comes on, pops a homer uh, to give the Owls a comfortable edge over the Hurricanes. And then you see the pitching, especially the relievers. They came through last night, and I can't be happy enough to say that with Danny Trehe getting the strikeouts, Steven Andrews holding them off the way they did, and Braid Ostrander topping it off to close the last 2 innings of the game. It was a great night for Owl fans to see their team just beat a rival in the Hurricanes.
Trey, he got the win last night, Richard, 13 and a third innings. He's up to 20 strikeouts on the year. He's a guy, he's a senior. Who knows where he goes for the Owls, but he's having a heck of a start to start the year.
Yeah, this bullpen
Yeah,
has been something special for this FAU team so far. I mean, that's something that can really help FAU. I mean, they have the starter CJ Williams. They have the starters, and they're able to also have such a good bullpen. I don't know much about baseball, but I have watched some of their games, and FAU is picked fourth to finish in the AAC. Let me tell you this, I'd be very surprised if they don't finish in the top three as of watching them right now. Now,
yeah.
let's go
Oh,
back to
wait,
basketball.
JJ. Before we move on, before we go back to basketball, looking at their next matchup against Maine, a 3-game set, of course, at home. Maine not having the best of starts of their season. In fact, they only have 2 wins out of 12 games, 2-10 record, and they've shown the ability to get a couple of runs here and there, but their defense is extremely vulnerable, which leaves a lot of opportunities for the FU offense to just explode in all 3 games. I'm anticipating a sweep on this one, and for the Owls to keep padding their record moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a series where FAU has to sweep a team. I mean, I'm not too familiar with Maine, but clearly with their record being 2-12, they're definitely not one of the best teams. And FAU, these are the series that FAU has to sweep. FAU has to play really good against them. Now, turning the page over to basketball, the best sport in FAU, and this might be the best season in FAU history so far. Now, we are in tournament week. AAC's tournament started today. The first match just finished. Wichita State, pretty solid from them, beating a good Rice team. And, they were down in the first half, but were able to come back big in the second half. The next game is just underway. Temple is up on UTSA by 14, 35, 21 at halftime. But I know what you're here for. You're here for FAU basketball. And FAU will play the winner of Tulane and North Texas. Richard, who would you rather play of those two teams if you're FAU?
Well, if you want a team that is defensively vulnerable, you get Tulane. You would want Tulane to beat North Texas. If you want a team that is offensively vulnerable, you get North Texas. And it's really a give and take between these two teams. Even Coach May said it himself when I spoke to when me and Robbie spoke to him during the Monday presser heading into this tournament. Like you gotta have a give or take. You gotta see which opponent would you rather face, and he's focusing on both teams, no matter who wins or no matter who wins. Like they're not taking either of these opponents for granted. The team may have sweat these teams during conference play, but getting a third win is extremely difficult, and that's the thing that they have to prioritize, making sure they are as prepared as possible to be able to play these two teams at their best. And North Texas, they are finally healthy. They have a healthy roster, which is very big for them, considering that they're hitting their stride at the right time with the tournament just outside their window. And Tulane, who are looking to get some much needed momentum with all the struggles they have suffered throughout the second half of the season. It's really gonna wind down to who comes out on top Thursday night.
Definitely, and I agree. I mean, North Texas is better at defense. I mean, they're the number like 6 defense in the country. They're also super slow. And Tulane, you get a little bit of everything. I mean, they're not horrible on defense, but they're not great either. Um, and they are better at offense than North Texas. They're able to score. They both have key contributors in Jason Edwards and John Buggs, Aaron Scott for North Texas. All 3 of those are guard heavy players. Buggs is really their primary 3-point shooter, and Edwards and Scott are able to find ways to get inside the paint off drives and being able to finish really well. And Tulane is a team, Kevin Cross, he's someone you have to look out for. But like Richard said, FAU did sweep both these teams, but both these teams kept it respectable in both games versus FAU. North Texas, both the games, one of the games was on a John L. Davis buzzer beater, and the only player in college basketball that can make that shot is John L. Davis, while being clearly fouled on the left wing, heaving something up with 0.4 seconds. I mean, you got to be as good as Nelly to make that. And then the other game, it was a dogfight till the end. It was a 4-point game. North Texas didn't give up. They fouled till the last moment. And same thing with Tulane. Tulane forced FAU to overtime in New Orleans. And then the second game, FAU, they were up. And then Tulane, they let them linger back. It ended up being a 6-point game, but they didn't end up giving up either. Richard did a little bit of coaches speak, not telling us who he would rather play. So, Robbie, same question for you. Who would you rather play, North Texas or Tulane?
Yeah, I think if I was Coach May, I'd rather play Tulane. Just because that defense has the ability to shut down your offense, and if they're successful in doing that, and UNT gets you in flipping to UNT, if UNT is able to get you into that defensive lull, that is not an easy team to beat. You'd rather see FAU get in a shootout with Tulane than have to try to beat UNT in a 60 to low 70 point battle. Neither is an easy matchup at all. It's going to be a battle either way, especially because, the shooters for Tulane, they feed off of energy, they feed off of momentum. And so they may have been struggling in certain points in certain games this year, whatever, but in a game like this is where they'll step up. So even if FAU does get Tulane, then it's still going to be a battle.
And to make my official pick, I prefer Tulane over North Texas. Obviously, you want a team that is defensively vulnerable. 9 times out of 10 over the team that is defensively elite. I think anybody can say that, especially with FU's offense being as potent as it can be. You want a team that is defensively vulnerable, and I think Tulane gives FU that advantage in that case.
Most definitely, yeah. I agree. I think you'd rather play Tulane because FAU knows how to win these shootout games. We saw Arizona, that game high 90s, went to overtime. We saw UTSA, that game went to overtime. We saw Wichita State. FAU knows how to win these overtime games. They know to win in shootouts. And I'd rather play Tulane because if you're going to get into a game, it's not going to be a slow, rugged, defensive game where it would be versus North Texas. Also, Denton, where North Texas plays, is about 15 minutes from Fort Worth, where the tournament is being played. So you know the diehard North Texas faithful are going to be out there. It may kind of be a home game for North Texas because I'm not sure how many FAU fans in Boca are going to want to travel to Fort Worth as opposed to I know multiple North Texas fans that wouldn't mind going 20 minutes to Fort Worth and play that game. And beating North Texas twice in 1 week would be absolutely crazy asker. Maybe once in twice in 9 days it would be, which is absolutely crazy. But you know, I hope FAU gets Tulane just for that reason. Now, moving on, I'll go this one to Robbie. Robbie, how confident? Give me on a scale or give me a percent chance. How confident are you in FAU winning the AAC tournament? Like, what percent do you think you'd give them right now?
Percentage is tough. I mean, obviously, I would give them a high percentage, anywhere from 80 to 100%. The one thing you know about FAU is they, again, like I said about Tulane shooters, is they feed off of big energy. They feed off big games. Um, they almost beat Illinois this year in New York. That would have been a good example, but they beat Arizona in Las Vegas. So it's like you see those types of games, and then you look at a game like FGCU where they're sleeping coming off of the Christmas break. So FAU gets up for these big type of games, and I think we see that again. They're riding momentum coming into this tournament, and they want to win this tournament. I talked to Giancarlo Rosado at the beginning of the year. He had one goal personally, and it was all the championships. And I think that resonates throughout the team. And I think they really do want to win this one, even though it would kind of be a stinker a little bit because the conference wouldn't get 2 bids. If FAU wins the conference, most likely AAC is a 1-bid league. So some twofold there. Yeah, it would be good. FAU wins the conference, but not good in terms of money because 2 teams is double the money.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, with the conference is splitting the money with the earnings that the team in the tournament makes. But yeah, I mean that's super high. Saying FAU has an 80 to 100% chance to win the AAC tournament. I mean, I'm confident now that you're saying that. That gives me a different confidence level. So thank you for that, Robbie. Richard, I want to go to you here. This FAU team, as Robbie mentioned, they have confidence. They've won 3 straight, and clearly something is just clicking. What do you think that thing is? And what would you like them? What do you think that thing is? And just talk about what they have to keep doing to keep their momentum up, to keep this win streak going, and possibly win. 4, 5, 6 games in a row.
Yeah, and it's really being unified offensively. Like you could tell that they were more united on offense, especially with that start to the North Texas game where they just made 3 after 3 after 3 after 3 to take a 12-0 lead over the Mean Green, who are usually very good defensively. So to get those batch of 3-pointers going, whether it's from Janelle Davis, Elijah Martin, Brian Greenlee, Jalen Gaffney, Nick Boyd, Brandon Weatherspoon, etc., you want your team to click on each side of the ball, whether it's on offense or defense, but most importantly on offense, where you're giving Vlad Golden a lot of opportunities to just cook inside the paint with his post game and just bullying smaller matchups down low and just getting some occasional posterizers here and there. Please keep feeding the posterizers to the content of posterizers to us, Golden. We really enjoy those posters. And just seeing Giancarlo Rosado return to form at the right time, and hopefully Trey Kell returns in time to give us a couple of minutes, to give the team a couple of minutes of production. You just want the team to play together, game by game, practice after practice, game after game, and of course, just balling out as much as he can throughout the conference tournament en route to getting at the very least an at-large bid or a conference championship, which is their first go at it in as a member of the American. So we'll see how they do in their first tournament in the American, but it's going to be very fun regardless.
Yeah, most definitely. And before we get to our AAC predictions, with all of us, I want to ask Robbie this. Robbie, you know, there's been a lot of talk going up these last 6 games if FAU is in the tournament. With that Memphis win, do you think they've secured an at-large tournament bid, even if they were to lose in the first round? Like, do you feel like they have to win one to just fully lock that up, or do you think they're in? Before we get to our predictions, please answer that.
No. I think they have secured their at-large bid, even if they don't win that one game. Especially because you look at how the committee decides and handles this whole process. They start their selection of the at-large bid teams on Wednesday. So a lot of what they're already deciding is already factored in for those at-large teams. And obviously they do contingency brackets and discussions go on throughout the weekend. So there's obviously room to wiggle. But if FAU is a team that's prominent, their name's been around now, and they're going to be a team that's, in my opinion, discussed Wednesday, Thursday before they even get a chance to play. So I think just based off of that and the success they've had this season, especially towards the end, I think they're in, even with an at-large bid and a loss in the first round.
I somewhat agree with that. I would like to see you win one in the tournament to just lock that up. And if you go out first round, you could be in that playing game. I mean, we can't forget this is not a 64 field, to field of 64, to field of 68 teams, and there's 4 teams that will have to play in, and I'd like to see FAU win that one game to assure they are in. Now let's get to our AAC tournament predictions. I want all 4 of you to give me your final 4. I mean, both of you to give me your final 4, and then predict from there. So Richard, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Robbie.
Well, for starters, I project a semifinal from on FEU's side of the bracket. I expect a FEU SMU semifinal. I think SMU is more talented than they let on, and I think their side of the bracket, like before they would play FAU in the semis, I think it's a very doable schedule, and I think they have a lot more talent to show, especially with how talented they are defensively and with the key players they have on the team, especially Zurich Phelps, who's going to be very crucial to how they play against FAU in the semis, should they make it there. And on the other side of the bracket, USF Memphis. I don't think there's any. Of course, there's potential for upsets, especially if Wichita decides to become that Cinderella team, beating Memphis if they beat Memphis in the next game. But I would project USF Memphis semifinal in that case.
And then
Robbie will go to your final 4 and then your finals and who wins.
Yeah, so from FAU's side of the bracket, I got FAU taking on Charlotte in the final bracket there. I think FAU comes out and they beat Charlotte. They want to get some vengeance. You know, anyone who knows FAU, they talk a little bit of trash. They got that chip on their shoulder. They lost to Charlotte in a game that I know in a lot of their minds they could have won. So they're going to want to get back in that game, and I think they do. And then looking on the other side of the bracket, I think Memphis runs that table. They go all the way. They beat Wichita State tomorrow. They beat UAB, and then they beat USF. And then you get FAU versus Memphis in that final game. And I don't want to make any predictions. It's a neutral court. It's about as close as you can get. The proverbial spread, in my opinion, would be 1 point or less in that game. So if it does happen, expect a dogfight, but it'll be a good one. And that's what I do think will come out to be the matchup.
To declare my final, I'll say FEU and USF. Let that be the actual Super Bowl of the American tournament.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think we know who Robbie would pick. FAU Memphis. He gave FAU an 80% chance at least to win the AAC tournament. So we can infer that FAU would win. And then Richard, I like how you're keeping it. I do have the same Final Four as Robbie. I have Memphis, USF, FAU Charlotte, and then a final of FAU and USF, and FAU taking that in a shootout. So make sure you guys let us know down below your Final Four, your predictions. We are so excited for this AAC tournament week. I mean, that's what it's all about. And
Welcome back to Inside the Burrow, everyone. Unfortunately, JJ had to leave us for the rest of this episode, but we're here to talk about some spring football. It's that time of the year. Middle of April is that spring game, and Rich was at the first practice of the spring a few days ago. So there was a lot going on there. Rich, what's some storylines that may have jumped out to you in the first practice at all, and how was it?
Oh yeah, it was a great time seeing the guys back out there once again. Like it's been a couple of months since I last seen them out there on the field, on the practice field specifically. Of course, they were obviously playing last season, but it's just been quite a while since I've seen the practice at the practice fields at this of the Smith Complex, and it was just a great breath of fresh air for me to catch up on. And Coach Herman, first year, he was just getting used to returning to his coaching ways. Like he was doing a lot of stuff off the field, and then he came back his first year back into head coaching. You could feel the anxiety. You could see what he wants this team to be good, and then you see what happened last year. The expectations did not match up to the reality, and he saw that firsthand, having his first losing record as a head coach. And second year, he feels more refreshed, like having spoken to him after the first session of spring practice. He feels a lot more refreshed. He feels a lot more optimistic. Like he's still lengthy with his answers, but you can tell that there was a lot more positivity with his responses, with how this team is starting to mix together as a unit. And especially with the newcomers, you got 34 guys coming over to the team throughout this semester. With key guys like CJ Campbell from Florida State, Caleb Coons from Marshall, and a lot of guys on both sides of the ball on offense and defense. Like those players that have joined are the types of players that he said he and the coaches are looking for. Like he wants two things: talent and culture. Because you can't have one without the other. If you're going to be a winning program, you got to have both. And Coach Herman's been really focusing on that when it comes to making this team much better than they were last year, and just being as dangerous as they can be come the season opener against Michigan State, which would be very entertaining. And then the second thing would be seeing how different the offense is. Obviously, you see Casey Thompson, Daniel Richardson make their departures. LaJohntay Wester depart for Colorado, and then his brother Jalen Wester on defense go to Colorado, join him in Colorado as well. It's just for the most part on the offensive side of the ball, it's a retooled roster, and it's going to be very fun to see how the new guys just take over the spots that are up for grabs.
It is. I mean, you mentioned a guy like Campbell and culture. I mean, he was at FSU last year. He played in that ACC championship game. So that's a guy that's going to be plugged in right into this offense. And then, like you said, but the guy who's going to be feeding him that ball may be different than last year. Fancher now, transfer Cam Fancher from Marshall here. And then, he'll probably be competing, in my opinion, with Starks and Johnson Jr. Did you get to see any of the quarterbacks at all? And if so, who was taking the snaps? How did they look?
I got to see a little bit of it. Like all of them were participating. They had different numbers, so they didn't have their official numbers on. They had black jerseys. They had different numbers compared to what their number on the roster is. But when it came down to it, I did speak to Tyreek Starks after the session. Like he came on at the end of last season. He got to take part in the season finale against Rice, leading a couple of snags, getting a few passes here and there, just getting that flow going, because that was his Owl debut. That was his debut as an Owl, and building off of that is going to be very important for him, especially with spring camp. Like you got a quarterback spot that is up, starting QB spot that is up for grabs, and he's competing with Cam Fancher, who comes from Marshall. And having spoken to him, he's just working on reading defenses better, and just being as efficient as a quarterback as he can be, because he has the experience. He's a JUCO. Before coming to FU, he was a JUCO transfer, and he has a lot of talent that can really provide to this Owl squad if he is the starting QB. But at the moment, he's just working on reading defenses better and just getting those passes to his receivers, because you have a pretty much a really very different receiving core compared to last year, with LaJonte leaving, Jaquan Burton maximizing eligibility, and Devin Price transferring. You have a different receiving unit compared to last year, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Fancher, Starks, Michael Johnson Jr., Luke Rucker, Carson Kruger, and how they connect with the receivers. It's going to be very fun to see how those two positions connect with one another. Like, I haven't taken much focus on that offensive side of the ball, because I was looking at tight ends, because it was a lot of returning guys, and there were no newcomers. But the overall core remains intact with Zeke Moore, Khalil. For Herman to say, because Brown was injured throughout fall camp, and having not had that opportunity to showcase what he is at his best throughout fall camp last year. Spring camp, this is his chance to really shine among the tight ends for Elijah Brown. He has a lot of potential coming out of Alabama, transferring from Alabama, having committed there a few years back. And this is his chance to really show Herman and the rest of the coaching staff what he's really capable of in the FEU offense, as he competes with Zeke Moore, Khalil Brantley for that starting job at tight end.
The tight end is going to be that position didn't really get highlighted too much in the offense last year, but it's something that Coach Herman can definitely use as a weapon. And then receivers, I mean, you didn't get a chance to look at them. You mentioned, but there's so many guys. So coming up, you're gonna have your hands full. I mean, you got Coombs, you got Marlon Johnson, you got Dom Henry. Those are just three guys right there. I mean, there's so many more. Marlon Johnson. And it's just
Milan Tucker.
Yeah, there's the names are endless that they brought in this offseason. So there's going to be targets there. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to take that role. George Johnson, actually, he was a wide receiver last year at UMass, but he's on the depth chart right now as a running back. So we'll see what they've got cooked up, and maybe some Kadarius Toney athlete type of plays going on in the offense this year. We shall see. Defensively, CJ Hurd, the safety, was he out there at all? Did you get to see him?
No, I did not pay defense yesterday on Tuesday. I was mainly on the offense, specifically tight ends, as I talked about. But tomorrow I will be looking at the defense. We'll be looking at specific.
We're going to have to get a report on CJ Hurd from Rich. He is definitely a guy that has the potential to make some serious impact on this Owls defense going forward.
A lot of talent returning to that unit. And with Charquez Lee being a newcomer to this team, he was a former East Carolina commit before changing his mind to the Owls, like showing where his real loyalty lies, really. And Coach Rock had a lot of things to say about Charquez Lee. He's a talent. And he's very talented and could be a very key piece to the defense as one of the linebackers of this core. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the linebackers are doing and see what Coach Rock thinks are going to really stand out among the bunch outside of Jackson Ambush and Desmond Tisdale.
There's a lot going on with that defense, a lot going on with the offense, but it's going to be something. It's going to be something to see what comes together with this team. A lot of new pieces. It kind of reminds me of baseball a little bit, and baseball seems to be off to a good start in their own right. So make sure, though, to go to on April 13th. That's the spring game. If you're in Boca, if you're not in Boca, make the trip. It'll be a good time, and show Coach Herman that support that he needs really to turn this program around in year 2. It should be a fun one, though. A lot will be on display in that one. But that's about it from us here on Inside the Burrow for this edition. We got AAC tournament coverage coming up on the Owl's Nest and Inside the Burrow all next week, so make sure to stay tuned. For JJ and Richard, it's been a fun one. Take care.
Yep. Take care, everyone. Go Owls.